Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor. Today I'm away from the studio. I'm actually in front of a room full of patriots pouring into people who are ready to fight for faith, family, and freedom in their own communities. It's one of my favorite things I love to do, but I cannot let the day go by without walking with you too. So ahead of time, I sat down and recorded this conversation just for moments like this. I'd love for you to share one concrete thing that you're doing to push back and build something beautiful right where you are. This is part of a movement, and it needs your voice in it.
So in our English, it's derived from this Latin term educare, meaning to lead out. So think of Duke, right? Duke Ferdinand, for example, right? Duke means leader. So to educate is to take the student by the hand and lead them somewhere. The ancient Greeks had a term for the teacher, which is pedagogos, which we derive the English word pedagogy or pedagogue, and it's a combination of pedia, which means child, and agogos, leader, someone who literally leads a child. So the moment you hear that definition, the obvious follow-up question presents itself immediately. If education is all about leading children out, the obvious question then is, where are we leading them? They're being led to what? To where? What's the destination? Where are we taking them? And that's the question. That's the central question of education. Everything comes down to that question. Some believe we're leading them to be smart. We're filling them with intelligence. Others believe we're leading them to a good job, to career prospects. Some want status. Education is a way where I show my neighbors I'm better than they are. And in the States, I don't know what you're having in Hungary. In the States, some teachers are really more political activists who are trying to lead our children into all kinds of strange things. But the classical tradition, the tradition of Jerusalem, of Athens, of Rome, they had a breathtaking answer to this question. Education, in the classical sense, is not primarily about the transfer of information. It's not fundamentally about acquiring skills or credentials or a profession. All of that was important for sure, but it was secondary. Educare, classically speaking, is ultimately about formation, not information, but formation. It's about shaping the character, training the affections, and ordering the loves of a human being toward what is ultimately true, good, and beautiful.
But first, let me ask you a serious question. If you could earn consistent double-digit returns guaranteed by law, would you still risk your money in volatile markets? Because most investments today come with a catch. I recently came across a method that works completely differently from a friend of mine. His name's Jay. It's backed by government authority. The returns are set by state law, and you can literally test the waters with as little as $50. No market timing, no complicated strategies, no dealing with tenants, no rehabs, and it doesn't take over your life either. Just a couple of spare hours a week. That's it. Now, here's the part that really caught my attention. This is the kind of predictable, law-based return strategy that banks and hedge funds have quietly been using for years, but it's a strategy that's been hidden and kept secret from most everyday Americans. But that's starting to change. So I asked Jay how long it would take him to teach me, and he told me he could break the entire thing down and actually walk through it live in less than an hour. And that's when I asked him to do the same for you, my audience, and he agreed. Jay is hosting a free live masterclass where he'll show you exactly how the strategy works, why the returns are guaranteed by law, and how everyday Americans can get started with very little time and very little money. But it's live only, no replays. So go to turleyclass.com to register. That's turleyclass.com, or just text Turley to 72000, 72000, or scan the QR code on your screen, tap send, and you're in. If you want predictable returns without the risk, volatility, and complexity of traditional investing, I'll see you in this masterclass. Register now at turleyclass.com. Text Turley to 72000 or scan the QR code to save your spot.
So in this sense, an educated person was not simply an informed person. An educated person was a virtuous person. And in our own tradition in the States, it's so fascinating because every one of our founding fathers in the 18th and early 19th century understood this. They were all classically educated. And they drew from that the notion that only a virtuous people can be a free people, because only a virtuous people is capable of self-governance. So they like to think of America as a republic of virtue. And they thought religion was the heart of that. We've very much lost that. That's with this whole modernist secular mindset. But it's coming back. Now, to understand why this is so, we have to go back to this ancient Greek conception of education as paideia, or pedia, right? We already saw that with that Greek term for teacher, pedagogos. So you might recognize part of that word. So in English, we had the word pediatrician, which is a child's doctor. Same root word, paideia or pedia. It simply means child. But in the ancient world, paideia had a very profound significance to it. It became synonymous with the Latin word cultura, from which we derive the word culture. And as such, paideia referred to the totality of the values, customs, and beliefs that we pass down to our children. So for the ancient Greeks, education and culture were literally the same thing. Education was not just schooling. It was enculturation, or it's another conception of it's an initiation into a way of being human. It was about instilling the cultural and political norms of the city-state, the polis. So here's why I need your help, Hungarians. Nevelis, did I get that right? Is that word, nevelis? And that's different than oktatás? Yes. So now you can trust my Greek. As I understand it, nevelis is very close to the idea of paideia. See, we don't have a word like this in English. So we have to use descriptors like, well, you're trying to train or you're trying to form or shape. But if you have nevelis, you're way ahead of us. That's wonderful. That's so good. What's so important to underscore here is that paideia and polis were inextricably linked together. The paideia was polis in microcosm. The purpose of paideia was to form a particular kind of human person who would contribute to a flourishing polis. So Plato makes this connection explicit in his Republic. The human soul is a microcosm of the city. And when the soul is harmoniously ordered, the city flourishes. When the soul is disordered, when our loves and desires are pointing in the wrong direction, the city falls into chaos. Now, of course, Plato didn't have a Holy Spirit to shape the affections, so his experiment fell apart. But that's where Augustine's City of God comes in. And this paideia-polis interplay made its way explicitly into the early church. Many of you know, we have all our pastors here. The Greek word for church is ekklesia. But you may not know that originally, ekklesia was not a religious term. It was a political term. Ekklesia designated the assembly of adult citizen males who had ultimate decision-making authority over the polis. So for Paul, the church is the true polis. The church is the true city. It is the New Jerusalem. It is the republic that Plato always longed for. And so it's not a surprise then that in Ephesians 6:4, Paul exhorts fathers to raise their children in the education of this new polis, the paideia tou Kyriou, the paideia of the Lord, not the paideia of Greek. It's a very interesting phrase, the paideia to Kyrios. It's not the paideia of the Greeks. It's not the paideia of the Romans, but the paideia of the Messiah, the paideia of Christ, who is the true Lord of the world. So from its very beginning in our Christian tradition, education was understood as forming children for citizenship, and citizenship ultimately in the eternal city of God. But what specifically does that formation look like? What are we actually cultivating in our students? And this is why I think we get to the heart of how education is the soul of society. It's the soul of civilization. In the classical tradition, again, stretching back to Jerusalem, Athens, and Rome, they gave us a majestic answer for what we are trying to instill in students in 3 words: aletheia, agathos, and kalos. Truth, goodness, and beauty. 3 windows into the divine order of the universe, as it were. They're not abstract philosophical concepts. For Plato, for the entire classical and Christian tradition that followed him, truth, goodness, and beauty were cosmic values. They were literally built into the very structure of the universe. And because the human person is a microcosm of this macrocosm, or in biblical terms, because we're the image of God, the human soul mirrors those 3 dimensions. Plato taught the soul had 3 faculties: a logos, a themos, and eros. Our rational, our intellectual capacity. The themos is our emotional, ethical, and volitional capacity. And our eros are our desires, our loves, our aesthetic sensibilities, the longings of our heart. And each of these faculties corresponded to the cosmic values. So truth reveals divine meaning to our intellect, our logos. Goodness reveals divine meaning to our will, to our themos. And beauty reveals divine meaning to our desires, our eros. It awakens our loves and directs our deepest longing. And this is where I think the Western tradition is particularly extraordinary. It's in this field of beauty. For Plato, he doesn't see beauty as simply something that's pleasant to look at. In the Symposium, Plato describes beauty as a kind of physics. It's a law of attraction. It draws us. So in English, if I find something beautiful, we say, I'm attracted to it. I'm drawn to it. It's like a gravitational pull. And where does it lead me? Right? Educare, where does beauty lead me? Well, by definition, it has to lead me to the true and to the good. That's why in order for something to be truly beautiful, it has to be true and good. True beauty awakens love. False beauty awakens lust. Beauty is the loveliness, the radiance, the delightfulness of the true and the good. That through the awakening of love, eros or agape, it draws us to the true and the good. So beauty isn't merely decorative. Beauty is motivational. It's the energy, it's the momentum, the eros that propels us towards the divine. So in the classical tradition, beauty is never reduced to a matter of personal taste, like chocolate. I like chocolate ice cream. That's fine. You can like chocolate ice cream. It's got nothing to do with beauty. It's got nothing to do with this cosmic value. When you reduce beauty to preference or just personal taste, then you've knocked out the entire engine of the entire moral and intellectual life that forms a flourishing soul. I'll get into that in a bit. C.S. Lewis gives a very interesting argument for that. Now, what happens when truth, goodness, and beauty are properly integrated in the soul? What does it look like when logos, themos, and eros are all aligned with the divine order of the cosmos. And this is, in the classical tradition, this is where virtue comes in. Virtue is not primarily about obeying rules. And I've been loving what I'm hearing from all of you. It's just so beautiful because you get it so easy. I mean, you understand so well. Virtue is about loving rightly. It's what Augustine called ordo amoris, the right ordering of our loves. Here's an example I used to give to my students. I would say, it's good to love a baby, and it's good to love a ham sandwich. But if they're both falling off a ledge and I rush to save the ham sandwich, that's bad. Now, the girls in my class always understood that. I had to explain that to the boys. It does take a little time. They do ask questions like, well, what kind of ham sandwich was it? Ham on the bone, or was the baby crying, annoying, or whatever. But they eventually get it too. And I keep asking them questions. Why? Why is that bad? Because remember, there's no bad. It's all good, as it were, right? Think of the garden. It's all good. The baby's good. The ham sandwich is good. But then you did something that was bad. Why? And eventually, the kids get it. Eventually, they recognize because a ham sandwich is good, but a baby is very, very, very good. So what I've done is I've dislodged my loves from God's economy of goods. And that's where the badness comes in. And you could see it right away in the Bible. We learn in Genesis that God creates a world that is good. Kalos, kalos, kalos in the Greek. Tov, tov, tov in the Hebrew, right? Every time God creates something, he infuses it with goodness. But that goodness has an order to it. All things are good as God created them. He created, though, an economy of goods, an order of goodness. So when he creates humanity, it's the first time he doesn't say, and it was good. What does he say? And it was, in the English, as I would know, it was very good, right? Kala lian in the Septuagint. Tov, tov in the Hebrew. Double good, right? Tov, tov. Everything else is tov. Humanity is tov, tov. So the superlative is essential there. Everything else is good. The sun, the moon, the stars, the seas, the plants, animals, all is good. But when he creates humanity, it's the first time God said, and it was very good. So that's what's known as that economy of goods. That orderly goodness in the world provides an objective model by which we're able to order our affections. And when culture is at its best, it's going to reflect that economy of goods, that kind of model. You're going to have really, really good, beautiful things.
Don't stop now. The lecture continues in part 3. Drop in tomorrow, June 5th. Make sure you're locked in.